One of the reasons projects fail time and time and time again is because of poor communication. And if we talk about communication, then we really have to think about English as an international language and using English in international projects. Therefore, being able to express certain things really clearly and really accurately in business English is really important for you. And when we talk about projects, one of the things that we have to manage is time. So it's important that you can express time clearly and accurately and look at project plans and be able to communicate what is happening on that project plan. So to look at a variety of expressions and particularly prepositions to do with time, what we're going to do is look at a simple project plan. And we've called this project the best networking event. Now, the best networking event, I've put together here a project plan, and let's get familiar first of all with this project plan. So the project plan is from the very start of the project, from the initiation of the project right through to the closure. And it goes through 5 months, from January, February, March, April, down to May. And there are different phases in the project, and every month has got 2 phases. So altogether, I've put together here 10 phases to the project. Now the phases will have different deadlines and different dates, and certain things will have to be completed on this project timeline. And sometimes everything will be completed according to the plan that you've made, and sometimes they won't. So let's look at expressing time on this project plan. So first of all, when we put together the project, we have to establish or we have to create a timeline. And another word for timeline could be time frame. And we have to put together a detailed project schedule. The planned or the estimated project duration, so the time that the project lasts, project duration on this project is 5 months. The project span is 5 months from the initiation phase to the closure phase. And the project is going to take, or the project is going to last 5 months. So we can have project duration, project span, or we can use the verbs take and we can use the verbs last. Again, looking at the overall project plan, our target is to complete by May the 31st. And then in a couple of seconds, I'll come on to the difference between the prepositions by and until. On a project timeline, we have to allocate sufficient time to tasks. Allocate time to. We have to distribute the tasks, and we have to distribute time to these different tasks. Sufficient is another word for enough. And on this project, the start date is January the 1st, or we could also say we are going to initiate the project on January the 1st. And the finish date is May the 31st. So then we come on to specific phases of the project. And different phases of the project will have their own deadlines or milestones. And we're going to look here at deadlines. So a deadline is an endpoint. It's the point by which something must be achieved. And with deadlines, we can either set deadlines, we can meet deadlines, or we can miss deadlines. And what we're going to do here is look at the deadlines for identifying and securing sponsors. So on this project timeline, we have set a deadline for identifying the sponsors. Set a deadline, and then the use of the gerund ing, identifying. And then of course we have to get the sponsors, we have to secure the sponsors. So on this project, the deadline for securing the sponsors is February the 28th, and we must secure the sponsors by this deadline. We have until the end of February to identify and secure sponsors. So here maybe we should look at these two prepositions, by and until. Now in English it's important to recognize we use both these prepositions to talk about time, but we use them in a very different way. And if we're talking about this project and we're now on January the 1st, here we're talking about February the 28th to secure sponsors. So let's look at this period between January the 1st and February the 28th. Now I can express the time between January the 1st and the 28th by using by or until, but they will have different concepts of time. Now if I use the preposition by the 28th, what I can often do with by, and it might make the meaning clearer, I can often put the words at the latest afterwards. So by February the 28th at the latest. So by means that the last possible date for securing these sponsors is February the 28th. And it's really talking about one-time actions. So the last date could be February the 28th, but if you work really hard or you were really lucky with your sponsors, you might secure them on February the 25th, or you might even do that a little bit earlier on February the 10th or something like this. Now, until has a different concept of time, and until is about really, it's thinking about continuous time. So it's something that you'll probably be doing continuously all the way through the period. So we will be identifying and securing sponsors until February the 28th. So we'll be doing this on January the 2nd, January the 3rd, February the 1st, February the 15th, right the way through to February the 27th. Meeting the deadline is about hitting the deadline. So it's important that we meet the deadline. And if we don't meet the deadline, if we miss the deadline, we won't be able to make it any longer. It will be difficult to extend it. So starting different phases of the project, and here we're going to talk about promotions. So promotions go ahead at the beginning of March. So to go ahead means they start, and then we've got at the beginning of. And this is the same with end. It could be at the end of March, but we would talk about in the middle of March. And then keeping everything according to the timeline or the plan that you've established. So 2 weeks are allocated to setting up the event space. This is adequate time to keep the project, and we can say the project can be on schedule, on track, on time. We should be able to easily complete this phase within the allocated 2 weeks. Maybe here we should talk a little bit about the difference between on time and in time. Now on time, a substitute for on time could be punctual. So for example, if you've got an exam and the exam starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, if you arrive on time, you will arrive at 10 o'clock. An opposite of on time would be late. Now in time has a little bit of a different feel, and in time would means that you will be arriving sometime so that you can do this exam. Maybe it's at 9:45, maybe it's even at 10:05 and you can still do the exam. You'll still be in time to do the exam. An opposite of in time might be too late. So in time would be sometime probably before the punctual time, and on time would be to do with punctuality. So keeping a project according to its deadline would be keeping it on time. And within would be a word for inside. So within the 2 weeks, it will be sometime inside of those 2 weeks. And then if we've got the schedule, we can be in front of the schedule or we can be behind the schedule. So let's have a look at some examples here. So if we can analyze feedback by the first week of May, the project will be ahead of schedule. So it will be in front of schedule. If we cannot complete the marketing materials in time, so here we've got the difference between in time and on time, and then the project will fall behind schedule. So we'll be late with the plan. And if things go on too long, we can say if this phase drags on, if this phase is delayed, if this phase overruns, or if this phase is overdue, then we will have to change the time frame. We will have to revise the time frame. Another thing we can do as well is go over the deadline. So if we overshoot the deadline for completing marketing materials, we might fail to deliver the project. If that happened, we would have to catch up with the schedule. So we would have to find some way in bringing the project back on schedule, back on track. Another thing that we can say with catch up with could be we have to make up time. When one project phase is completed, then we have to get the other one started and they have to be underway. So once promotions are underway, registrations will begin to flood in. And sometimes I have to put something off. I've got a date for a certain part of the project, and then things are not going on track, and then I have to put it to a later date. And this can be postponed, or I can put it off. So if registrations are below expectations, we would have to postpone the event, or we would have to put the event off. Other things that we can have with project schedules, for example, are time constraints. And time constraints are limitations on your time. For example, in this project schedule, I've got to develop the marketing materials and I've got to promote the event. And if I haven't done those two things, then it will be kind of stupid to let the event go ahead. I probably won't get any registrations. And therefore, there's a limited time within which I can develop the marketing materials and promote the events. These are time limitations on time constraints. And a phrase that we often use with time constraints is due to time constraints. Another thing that we can do when we talk about weeks of the year, and if you look in a diary, you'll see in the diary that weeks are often divided into just numbers. So we've got 52 weeks in the year, and then you've got week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. We often call these just week 1, week 2, or they can be called calendar week as well. And these can often be referred to in schedules as well. So the kickoff meeting is the first meeting in a project, must be held in calendar week 2 or week 2. And then we come to lead time. And lead time is the time from which you order something and it's delivered. Now, for example, here we've got the catering company, and the catering company has quoted a lead time of 6 weeks. So from the time that I give the catering company the order for providing the catering at this event, they will need 6 weeks in order to deliver that catering. And it would be the same in a manufacturing company. I give the manufacturing company an order, and if it's a special kind of order, then they have to manufacture the order, and they have to put the order together, and then they have to deliver it. And this time is called a lead time. If you're falling behind schedule, then you will probably have to work against the clock, and you'll have a tight deadline. Now, a tight deadline is a deadline that you've got and there's some kind of pressure involved. And working against the clock means that you've got very in some ways limited time, and you've got to use every hour that you can, and there's some kind of pressure in order to get different tasks completed. And I'm giving the example here. We will probably have to work against the clock to meet the tight deadline on writing the final report. So we'll probably have to work up, another thing we can say, we have to work flat out in order to get this report written. And when we look back to my first comment, many projects are let down by poor communication. And communication is about being sometimes very accurate in your English and being very clear with your English. And one way that you can be clear and accurate in your use of English is by expressing time clearly and accurately. So thank you very much for listening to this video. Please have a look at my other video to do with the 5 phases of projects, and I'll see you in the next video.